You're listening to the Bulldog Hour, getting you inside the Wilson football program with weekly game previews, recaps, highlights, and interviews. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Mays and Justin Raffoff.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to the Bulldog Hour. I am one of your hosts, Joe Mays, and here with me this evening, once again, via technology, is my co-host, Justin Raffoff.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Should be a good show tonight.
Yeah, we get to talk about a victory, which is a nice thing to have on this beautiful fall evening, where I'm sure most of the people not watching the show, and we appreciate you if you're here watching us right now live, because I'm sure many others, everyone watching this show is a football fan, so I think a lot of people are tuning into the game on NBC right now between the New England Patriots and the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as Tom Brady makes his return to Foxborough, and as NFL luck would have it, set to break a passing record in the biggest game that isn't the Super Bowl. So a lot of
I'm
good
sure
things.
It's all coincidence.
Yeah, right. That's how that works. So, but yeah, episode 11 of our 7th season here. Justin and I are going to talk about the Penn Manor victory, and then we'll preview McCaskey at the end. But it is nice to be here talking after a Wilson win, and a big win it was. It was very, very fun atmosphere Friday night down in Millersville at Beamsdorfer Stadium. We only get there every other year or so, depending on the way the LL sets up the schedule. And it was nice to be back. They have a great facility. Drive there and parking not always the best. It always seems like things are under construction. But, we had a lot of fun. Got to meet up with one of our sponsors, Andy Herr, a writer for EasternPAFootball.com. He wrote in a great game recap. You should definitely check that out if you haven't already. Andy always does a great job with that, so we appreciate him covering the Bulldogs Friday night and always supporting us here at the Bulldog Hour. But unfortunately, Justin wasn't able to be there, missing his first Wilson game since the 2016 season. Is that right, Justin?
Yeah, yep. The kids who are seniors when I last missed a game are out of college now. So,
or all but close to it.
Yeah.
I know. Yeah. I believe one of them is still playing at Kutztown, who got the big win yesterday.
Yes. Sorry. Yeah. I just meant I was just thinking in terms of the kids that I had in class that year.
True. Yes.
I know we talked to some of them last year at the last summer at the football golf tournament, like the boosters.
Yep.
Golf tournament thing. And they were like, "Oh yeah, I'm entering my senior year." I'm like, "What?"
Hey, I'm sorry. Come again?
Elliot Bob in that group.
Yeah. So. And one of those guys is now a volunteer assistant coach for the high school team.
Yes. Yeah.
Alex Twyford. So yeah, that group in 2016, that was a really good team, but they're making their way through the college system now, are done or about to be done in the case of Mason McElroy and Isaiah Regal.
Yeah.
And we do want to continue to wish Isaiah a speedy recovery from his injury. He didn't get to suit up for East Stroudsburg yesterday against Kutztown, but Kutztown, Mason McElroy, and a few other Burke standouts got the victory yesterday. So congratulations to them. But
yeah, they're off to a hot start.
Yeah, yes, they are. And Justin, since you weren't able to be there in person, you got to take in the game stream of the event, which was done through Penn Manor Athletics with Sports Stream Premium. I think actually is related to the Eastern PA Football Network as well. And what did you think about the game cast?
I liked it. I know you had mentioned some people were wondering if it was cutting out and stuff. I didn't have any issues with it cutting out. One time I had a buffering issue on my end, but that was one time, and I think it was in the fourth quarter. That was a non-issue for me, so the coverage was good. I think, we know Bruce and those guys, and I thought they did a nice job. that's a tough job. I think people don't necessarily realize.
No, yeah,
I think
we're
people
very
think,
much aware.
right. I think people think like, oh, I watch football. How hard could it be to talk about it while I'm watching it? Well, yeah, it's not that simple. And honestly, especially in a game like Friday night when it, gets to be
Turns into a
score gets
blowout.
a little out of hand, and you start getting guys rolling out there that like you don't know that kid's number. Like when they're out there, like I know Cam Jones, which by the way, the Cam Jones like linebacker for Indiana last night. I laughed every time.
So did I. Yep.
But like I know Jaden's number. I know those guys. So like when I see like was it Gavin with the interception?
Yes.
Like when I see number 2 intercept the ball, I'm like, oh, Gavin interception. Like I just know that. But like when you get into the fourth quarter of that game and there's some numbers and I'm like, I know the kids, but I don't necessarily know their number. So it's just that, and we watch the Wilson game every week.
Right.
This is only the second game they've seen of them. So I thought they did a nice job. I liked the stream. Like we talked about it a little beforehand. I don't think they tried to overdo it, which is great. They just kind of give you the product. Here it is. And it was perfect for what I needed. I was unable to be at the game on Friday night. So to be able to watch, had it set up outside on our back porch and was out there watching the game. It was great. I mean, I would have loved to have been there, but not being able to be there, it was the next best thing.
Yeah, and I sent you a post today from an Instagram account about fall weather and fall viewing capacity and all the people watching games outside. And I was like, well, Justin's joining that party now. Justin is one with those guys watching Saturday college football and Sunday NFL action on the patio, which is great. And you got to test it out on Friday night.
And on Friday night, right. So I had 3 straight days of football on the back porch. It was again, all things considered, it was pretty good. Not necessarily how I would have planned it out, but if that's how it has to be, that's how it has to be.
Yeah. You got to work with the hand you're dealt, and you definitely you made up for it. So, but it will be fun to have you back this week. Looking forward to it. And let's dive into our housekeeping here before we recap the game against the Comets. So first off, we'll start with our sponsors. Thankful to my dad and May's Sandwich Shop for presenting the Bulldog Hour since our inception 7 years ago. When we brought the show back, he was there from day one. We appreciate that. And also a few others, like last week at the last second, this came in and I wanted to make sure we put it out there again. But Mike Drago and MikeDragosports.com, the newest sponsor of the Bulldog Hour. So we appreciate what Mike does for us and for Scholastic athletes and teams around Berks County. And I think that he had people at many, many games Friday night and yesterday. So if you aren't a subscriber, I know he was sending out some discount codes to, I believe, the parent organization. And I also saw that it was in the Bulldog Blitz newsletter this week. There was a discount code for anyone that wanted to subscribe to MikeDragosports.com. I would definitely... if you're interested in football, basketball, and whatever Mike gets into come the spring, they're covering soccer too. Jason Gorante is doing a great job at that. If you're interested in that, you're not getting it from the local paper anymore. Definitely want to check Mike out at MikeDragosports.com. We also want to thank our fellow sponsors at CNS Supply Company, Andy Herr, Marty Palm, and our 3 anonymous donors. And again, thanks to Andy Herr for meeting up with me after the game Friday and for that great write-up on easternpafootball.com. There are more ways that you can help besides sponsorships and advertising and the in-kind donations. Make sure you visit the website, BulldogHour.com. And as always, Justin's favorite.
Like and share.
Yep, spread the news when we're live, when we post something, when we put information out there. Just give us a like and give us a share. It does go a long way. And the other way you can help us, it's not listed on there, but something I want to put out there for sure is if you listen to this show audio only via a podcatcher as a podcast, leave us a review. I know for sure you can do that on Apple Podcasts. I don't know if all the other ones like Spotify and things like that have that option, but if you listen to us through Apple Podcasts, give us a follow and a review on that platform as well. Our next live show will be in 1 week from now, Sunday, October 10th. Same time, same places. We will recap the game against McCaskey, and we will preview the game at Cedar Crest. All right, now we can say it. Halfway done. And of course, the second half of the schedule includes things that aren't guaranteed. The first half, everything was going to happen as listed there. The second half, nothing is a given. There are 4 games left that we know are scheduled. That starts this Friday, October 8th, against McCaskey at Gursky Stadium. And then 2 road games following by the regular season finale against Manheim Township on October 29th. But after that point, nothing is guaranteed. We're not going to start talking power ratings just quite yet. But as I said on Twitter, and I think may have been mentioned on the broadcast from SSP Network, I have my power ratings file ready to go. I already did a bunch of predictions. But with 5 games left to play for Wilson and the rest of the field, I was not about to start putting that out, at least publicly. I've talked to a few people about it behind the scenes, but we'll wait a few more weeks until we start diagnosing and predicting what may or may not happen in the District 3 6A power ratings and the playoff field. But, as always, if you take care of your business and win, it doesn't matter. Like, you will make it. If Wilson wins out, they will make it. I feel very confident saying Wilson finishes 7-3 with the 5-game winning streak, they will be in the field. They may not be in the top half of the field, but they'll be in the top 8, and that's where you need to be. And if you're running through a 5-game winning streak, you got to feel pretty good going into the playoffs, knowing, as we mentioned often last week, things are up for grabs in the section race and in District 3 6A. So get hot at the right time, and you never know. So let's keep focus forward, and we'll revisit power ratings and talk about playoffs at a future date. All right, so where to start? Well, Justin, why don't you just give us a quick overview, a brief rundown of what you saw from the game during the broadcast?
So, again, it was a little different experience, kind of trying to take it all in, but also at the same time, I wasn't like, usually during the game, there are things that I'll miss because of just tasks that I'm trying to get done, and make sure are happening. So I'll miss certain things. So it was definitely a different perspective, which was kind of fun, but at the same time, I liked, you and I talked about this. You talked about it on the halftime show of the stream. Just the idea that, like, we needed a quick start, and they got off to a quick start. They opened up. The defense, went out there and got the ball back really quickly, almost as quickly as you possibly could. I think TJ get an interception there?
Yes, or was it fumble recovery?
Or fumble recovery, but yeah, he got the ball. So TJ got the ball, and then TJ got the ball in the end zone a few plays later on a spectacular catch, which you captured well in your pictures. But yeah, like, it was a quick start. And then, unlike some other times this year where we've had, things go well, like, we were able to build on those successes. One of the things that didn't happen in this game, or at least doesn't stick out, was like multiple mistakes. Not saying everything was perfect. There were certainly, times where there were mistakes that were made, but for the most part, it seemed like they were isolated incidences, which is huge. That's what we talked about going into this game. We were, like, last week's show, we were saying, look, do the things you need to do. Handle your business, and everything else will kind of take care of itself. And that's what they did. Wilson went out there, they handled their business, and everything fell into place. And it sounds cliche. It is cliche, but it's true. They went out there, they did their job. I saw, Doms was quoted multiple times as saying that over the last week or so, like, they need to do their jobs. Well, they did. And things went smoothly this time. And, some of that, there can be lots of factors that go into that. But when you are doing what you're supposed to do, you put yourself and your team in a good spot. And hey, we talk about this. We've talked about this. Maybe sometimes it blurs what we've talked about on the air and on the car rides and stuff. But, it's one of those things where, like, if you go out there and you play, you do your job and you play well, and we lose that game, not necessarily Friday night, but like other games, like, so be it. But more times than not, I'm confident that if we go out and play the way we can, we're going to come out on the positive side. And that's how I felt going into Friday night. And they handled their business early and often, and that was great.
Yeah. And you touched on, I think that was the biggest thing. Start fast, get some momentum. And Wilson hasn't been great this year. Honestly, maybe the best game they had with that at Exeter, they fell apart afterwards. They had a fast start against Martin Luther King as well. So I don't want to say that hasn't happened, and maybe that's not even true, because think back to Central Dauphin too. They started out on fire in that one as well. Right. Mifflin was a little rough. And I think most people think about the way Exeter ended, but really they got off to a great start against Exeter. I think you look back into the past, though, once we get into section play and league play, and a lot of the section games, especially the road section games, sometimes it's a slow burn, and you want to ignite immediately, and that's what they did. And you mentioned TJ Flight helping things out early with a fumble recovery, and then he eventually gets in the end zone trying to find the pictures of that first drive, because it didn't take them long. And immediately we saw... Yeah, they just moved right down the field, and we immediately saw the benefits of the return of Jaden Jones back after missing 2 games, and he just helped them move right down the field. And then they decided to go to the air, and Brad eventually found TJ, which I believe is on this play right here, and he did make a spectacular catch. One-handed grab right in front of me. I wasn't sure during it if I had gotten the picture. I had hoped that I did, because I knew it was right there. My biggest thing is, did I keep it in focus? And by and large, I did have it in focus for him. So that was a big moment to start the game like that. And I immediately turned around and went over and talked to Jeff Deck, who was manning the end zone camera. And he was like, "Did you get it?" And I showed it to him, and he went nuts. So I was like, "Yeah, I think I got that one." So I was happy about that. But that wouldn't be the only time throughout the game that was picture worthy. Wilson played very well for the better part of the first half. I would say defensively they were on fire most of the evening, almost the entire night, other than maybe the last few minutes when there were some backups. JV were playing. They were able to get a big play and eventually a score. But they were, especially at the beginning, they were playing with reckless abandon. They were just getting after it, especially Nick Weitzel from his defensive end spot, and Dominic Memo from his tackle spot. Both of those guys were flying around.
They were dominating the line. And I know, there were a couple like screen plays that they got, and I said this to you kind of like tongue in cheek a little bit, but at the same time, like there's some truth to it. Like, I think it might have been a little hard to tell on the defensive line that, like, to get your screen read, because they were flying through the line nearly every play. So, like, flying through the line sometimes, a lot of times, can be a key that, like, nah, they didn't block me on purpose. You know what I mean?
Right.
And you get a step in and you're like, wait, and you start looking around. But, like, nearly every play, they were flying through the line. I think it ended up, would they have, like, 10 rushing yards or something like that?
Yeah, it wasn't much.
Right.
Justin jumping ahead like he wants to do all the time.
Well, I like to be difficult, and I was like, hey, I bet Joey doesn't have this tab up right now.
I don't. I'm scrambling to try to figure it out.
Well, so they have, there's they have very few rushing yards, and I know it's not like sack adjusted for in high school, but it's one of those where just knowing how they were getting through the line every time, I can understand how it would be difficult to, when you're going through the line every play, that then it doesn't stand out when it is a screen,
Right.
so not that you don't have to be on your toes for that, but I can understand how that would be a little tough as opposed to when there's a little more resistance each play
Right.
and then you go through untouched. That's when it might be that red flag. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, it's good. It was good performance. It was kind of the performance we've been waiting to see a little bit. And it's tough because Martin Luther King, like that game, they handled their business. They did their job, but it was still pretty sloppy in that game. You know what I mean? Like,
right. There were a lot of moments that we were like, oh, right. I could have done that better.
Feel that way. I didn't feel that way in this game. In this game, I felt like, it wasn't a perfect game, but I didn't feel like, oh, that was a sloppy win. I felt like we went in there and we handled our business and did exactly what this team is capable of, or at least more in line with what this team is capable of. And, I hope to see more of that.
No, yeah, for sure. It was very well done. The second offensive series, maybe not the best. It was a little bit
right.
There was a little issue here and there. They're not going to be perfect throughout. You're not going to score on every drive. Very rarely does that ever happen. But by and large, things were going really well.
Unless you're playing against the Eagles today. So.
Yes. Well, let's not get into NFL talk. That won't end well for either of us. So. But Friday night, things were very good. 7-0 after the Hoffman the flight score. Eventually, Wilson gets the ball back at the I think this is early in the second quarter. Wilson drives down the field, courtesy of some nice rushing by Jaden Jones and Brad Hoffman, and Jaden gets into the end zone for his first score in a few weeks. The extra point, I believe, it was either a bad snap or a bobbled snap, and ended up not being kicked. So Wilson was up 13-0. They defense again plays lights out, does really, really well as just giving the offense opportunities to make something happen. And nearing the end of the second quarter, very close to halftime, Wilson has the ball back and is hoping to make some more noise. And they got a long way to go, though. They're down deep in their territory after a Penn Manor punt, but the return of Jaden Jones is felt in a big way as he breaks off a huge run. Is just all over the field, heading down towards the Penn Manor end zone. He gets tackled around the 10-yard line or so, but it sets up what would be his second score of the night. Wilson would go for 2 and would not get it. So Wilson is up 19-0, looking pretty good. You got to feel pretty good. Up, 3-score margin, heading towards what you think is heading towards halftime. But that wouldn't be the end because Wilson defense had something to say about it. They manned up and stood up against Penn Manor once again, forcing Penn Manor to punt. And I don't know, you gotta think on film. People know you don't let Cam Jones get the ball. Like, I don't know why anyone would want that.
Look at it. We've played teams this year that refuse to kick off to us, right? Like they'll pooch every kick because they won't kick it to Cam.
Well, they kicked it near Cam. He found the ball on a hop, and he picked it up, and he just does what Cam Jones does. And he picked it up, started racing towards the end zone, and eventually weaves his way through the Penn Manor coverage unit and is able to get into the end zone with, I think it was like 17 seconds or something like that left before halftime. So instead of Wilson being up 19-0, thanks to Cam Jones and the extra point by Ben Rada, Wilson is now up at halftime 26 to nothing, as you see right there. So even more breathing room, but Wilson was in control the whole time. It might have been an issue here and there, but going into half up 26-0 and in control. And like you said, the defense was smothering. They were not letting anything happen. They were brilliant along the defensive line against the running game. They only ended up rushing for a net 2 yards on the ground. And this is a team that was relying on the running game to get their wins. And again, I think people would point to the end result of this, of maybe some people scratching their heads just saying, what's going on with, District 3, 6A and LL Section 1? Is this wide open? Because, Wilson, coming in 2-3, maybe not looking the best. Penn Manor sitting there at 4-1, having a couple nice victories under their belt, but Wilson just completely outmatched them.
Well, and when you read, I read a bunch of the articles from a lot of different places. I read Andy's article. I read the article on Mike's site. I read the stuff on Lancaster News, all this stuff on the game. It was interesting because a lot of people, admittedly, were kind of not necessarily thinking Penn Manor was maybe a big favorite or anything. I don't mean to give that impression, but people were definitely intrigued because this Penn Manor team was 4-1. Like you said, some nice wins, including a win at Warwick, who just beat Manheim Central.
Right.
It definitely had everyone's attention. And then they're just kind of thinking what's going on? And then Wilson goes in there and just destroys them.
Yeah, it wasn't close. It wasn't a game.
Right. And
I'm happy about that.
Yes. Yeah. A couple of articles are everybody just kind of what's happening? And then all of a sudden, nope, not going to happen anyway. Same as the previous 30 times or whatever it is. So I'll take it.
Yeah. I guess there's some discrepancy once again on the stats book and what's actually out there in terms of record win-loss with Penn Manor, because the stats book had Wilson at 30-0 entering the game Friday night, but a couple outlets had them at 29-0 entering the game. So there's a phantom win out there, or one that's either missing from some records or is made up in others. And I would like to get to the bottom of that. I got to figure out the dates of all 30-ish Penn games against Penn Manor. Some of them are very easy to find. We probably, let's see, I know Max Preps goes back to 2004. So right there, actually, that's more than half of the games will be on Max Preps. So just got to go back in time and find the rest of them, because I would like to have that for sure. Because if the stats book is wrong, all the wins are wrong in general, which I don't like at all, because that means the 500th victory wasn't at Lancaster McCaskey. It kind of gets, there's a snowball effect there that I don't really like. So I'm hoping for sure that the stats book is correct, and Wilson is now 31-0 against Penn Manor. Yeah, but it is interesting. I got a message from another PA football coverage site saying that they think that could be the biggest, longest streak in the state for wins against an opponent.
Wow.
Which I guess shouldn't be a surprise. 31 in a row.
That's a lot.
Well, and not only is it 31 in a row, it's 31-0. Penn Manor has never beaten Wilson. Now, I don't think the matchup goes back farther than probably the 80s would be my guess. There might be games in the 80s. I feel like it's a relatively new thing. I don't think Wilson and Penn Manor were hooking up before they made it to the LL League, which I know was back in the 70s. But again, I don't know, how the sections were aligned throughout the first decade or so when Wilson was in there, because I have some of those seasons done on BulldogHour.com, but I don't remember Penn Manor making an appearance. But I remember watching them play Penn Manor growing up, and obviously when I was on the team, we played them. So I think it's a more relative matchup history, so it should be easy to track down, and that's something I would like to do maybe in the off season, is figure out what exactly is going on. Are we 30-0 against Penn Manor or 31-0? But all that matters is the 1-0 from Friday night, the resounding victory. What was it, 40-6? 40-0
Yep.
late in the fourth quarter. They get one at the end, 40-6. I know the starting defense was disappointed. No pizza this week. Lost the shutout. I heard that a few times on the sideline, but it is what it is. So, but in the end, that W is all that matters. 3-3 on the season, back in the win column with 2 more games in a row here that look a little bit easier now. Then we didn't know what to expect going into Penn Manor, but we thought Penn Manor was going to be the toughest of the next 3. But now they have McCaskey at home and Cedar Crest away, and both of those teams are struggling. Neither are winless, but they haven't exactly been dominating. They haven't been looking good, McCaskey or Cedar Crest. But McCaskey will be up first, and we're going to preview them in just a little bit. But we're going to run through the stats now as I try to see if I can get my interview to work. I did catch up with a few of the players after the game. I'm working on getting that right now. But here is, let's go to our player of the game. So Justin, I didn't get to talk to you about this. There were 2 players that jumped off the screen to me, especially at the beginning. I don't want to slight anyone because I think it was a very solid game from a bunch of the defensive linemen, like we already mentioned, Nick Weitzel, Dominic Memo. Offensively, it's a solid game from quarterback Brad Hoffman, and I just think there was Cam Jones, obviously, with that punt return. That's always going to be a consideration, and he's been our player of the game back-to-back weeks, so he's not going to get a three-peat here tonight. So I was down to 2 guys, TJ Flight and Jaden Jones. And I really strongly considered going to TJ with those 2 receiving touchdowns and the fumble recovery. He was right up there. But when you look at the stats and overall feel for the game, I feel like it has to go to Jaden here, just because 156 rushing yards and 3 touchdowns. Got to play some on defense, chipping in a tackle, but you could kind of feel his presence on the offense at all times. He was a big contributor throughout the night, and it was great to have him back after missing 2 games against Martin Luther King and Mannheim Central. So he seemed well rested and seemed ready to roll, and he came out and performed in a big way Friday night.
Yeah, it was great to have Jaden back, and like you said, the things you said about how his impact it translated through the screen as you were watching from afar too. Like it just had a different feel. And that's not, there were lots of guys who had great games on Friday night, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take everybody doing their job, stepping up. TJ had an awesome game. Cam had a great game. Like you mentioned, Dominic, and Nick, there were guys all over the place dominating their matchups, which is what you want. But it was great to have Jaden back out there. And like you said, 11 rushes for 156 yards. That's crazy. And then you add in the 3 touchdowns. His presence was definitely felt.
Yeah, in a big way. So he is the one that we're going to give the nod to this week. Just to go over a few more statistics before we finish up the Penn Manor game. Not a big discrepancy in first downs. 12-8 favor Wilson. Penn Manor did not get a single first down rushing. They got 5 via passing and 3 on penalty. Net yards rushing, Wilson 196, Penn Manor 2. I mean, that if you just give someone that stat, I think they understand how the game went along. And honestly, they weren't that different in rushing attempts. So the average per rush was just ridiculous. 7.5 for Wilson, 0.1 for Penn Manor. 0.1 yards per rush for the Comets. Penn Manor out through Wilson, but that's not a surprise. Wilson didn't necessarily need to go to the air. Penn Manor attempted 18 passes, Wilson 11. Total yards, Wilson more than doubled up. Penn Manor 268 to 125. Just one punt from the Bulldogs, whereas Penn Manor had to punt 6 times. And again, Wilson did not, I believe, did not turn the ball over. No interceptions, no fumbles, whereas Penn Manor had one of each. Wilson's interception 4 came in the hands of Gavin Leonard, who stepped in front of one of the screen passes by Penn Manor and set up.
I thought Gavin was going to get in the end zone.
Well, he actually mentioned that if I can get my interview working, he talks about that. The always the humble Goose Leonard talking about why he didn't get in the end zone. So we'll hear about that. Just looking over the numbers a little bit more, Penn Manor had the ball longer than Wilson did, nearly 27 minutes to Wilson's 21. Wilson didn't do great on third downs, 0 for 4, but they didn't need it that often. And Wilson scored on 4 of their 6 trips to the red zone, and Penn Manor never got in the red zone until late in the game. So just an overall very, very solid game all around. Nick Weitzel had 2 sacks and TJ had a sack. So again, he's hanging right there for, he's my 1A, I guess, for player of the game, because he had a heck of a game with the 2 touchdowns, the sack and the fumble recovery. So, and they have Eli Rodriguez, the defensive tackle, causing that fumble according to the stat sheet. So,
well, all that aside, like we talk about Jaden coming back. It is nice to see TJ back fully now. I know he got hurt earlier in the season and he's been back for a few weeks, but kind of seeing him fill that role that, I don't want to say is expected, but kind of like more like where his potential was to really help this team. So as he's, that's a perfect example as he steps up and as he's having the ability to get back from that injury, like it just helps his team so much. And
right.
It's great to have multiple guys that we. It's fun when you get to pick this way, like when we have to narrow it down. That's right. A good problem to have.
That is a good problem to have. So now the problem here on my end is I think I got my interviews to work. So I'm going to try to shuffle this over. Let me double check and make sure. Okay, that looks like the right one. It might be very large when I first transition over. Hopefully you can hear it. It was also very loud on the field as I'm trying to record this. Lots going on post game. We got bands and fans and parents screaming and other interviews happening. So hopefully you can hear this. If it doesn't work, we'll just bail and start over. But I'm going to try to play the interview that I had post game with the Jones brothers, Goose Leonard, and TJ Flight. So here we go. Let me give this a shot. To the press box. All right, I'm here post game after Wilson's victory over Penn Manor, a resounding 40-6 victory with Cam Jones, Jaden Jones, Gavin Leonard, and TJ Flight, all big contributors in tonight's victory. Guys, what did it feel like to get back in the win column?
Amazing. Fabulous. Amazing.
I think the man of the night was Jaden. 3 rushing touchdowns this evening. How did it feel to get back on the field with your teammates?
Yeah, 2 weeks too long was off, but let my body to recover. And this week at practice, we had a really good practice coming out this week, and it contributed and it showed in the game today.
TJ, we went through a little bit of deja vu. There's a turnover in the first quarter. You scored a touchdown a couple plays later. We open up the next half. 2 plays later is a turnover. You get another passing touchdown. Did you guys focus on chemistry this week, certain plays with Brad, or is it just he found you at the right time?
With Oshate Jenkins, please report to the press box. We have something you're going to want. Oshate Jenkins, please report to the press box.
I had to get out of bounds. I wanted to give Brad and TJ, another touchdown.
That's right. You're just being humble, passing it around. Right. You don't want to take too much for yourself. So, guys, not just offense, but a huge defensive performance from you guys. Shut down almost the entire game. Did they do anything different that you didn't see on films, or was it pretty much what you expected?
Yeah, it started out kind of like a wing tee set, which we weren't really expecting that, but it was kind of the same. Once they went into motion,
they still ran option track out of it. And that's what we worked on.
Yeah, you guys were living in the backfield all night, and then you guys really jumped on those screen passes. That's something you saw on film a lot this past week?
Oh, yeah. That was definitely their biggest.
That was our big keys this week.
Yeah, the screen pass was definitely their biggest play that they've had previous weeks before. And tonight, too, it worked for them well.
All right, well, I know you guys are hungry, and I know there's a few guys behind me that want to talk to you, so congratulations on your big win. And I know you're going to get ready for McCaskey starting tomorrow night. So congratulations, and we'll talk to you next week.
Thank you.
Enjoy your maize sandwiches.
A little ad placement. Okay, I have no idea if any of that worked or not. Any of that worked. Hopefully it worked. If not, I'm sorry about that. I'll see if I can post it elsewhere. I also think it may have kicked Justin off the stream here. So we'll have to see if I can get him back. Get him working again or not. We shall see. But yeah, so that was maybe my interview with the players afterwards. I don't know. It wasn't great there. I was having issues. I probably should have just bailed on it altogether. So let's move on to McCaskey. Talk about the Bulldogs' next game and. See if I can get Justin back with us. I'm not sure why I can't hear him. So says he's there. All right. Well, so McCaskey this week, Friday the 8th at Gursky Stadium, and the Tornado are struggling. They're not having a great year. It's been a while since they've had a great year. They won earlier this year. They are not winless, and they may actually have 2 wins. I should pull up their schedule and see where they sit. Yes, they do have 2 wins. So they won in week 1, the first game of the year for them against Reading, 27-20. They then got beat up pretty significantly by York William Penn, 54-7. That was a week after, I believe, York got beat up by Governor Mifflin. So, that was kind of to be expected. York was out. They wanted to take care of it. So, hey, you there?
I'm back.
Okay, you're back. I think that was on my end. I'm not really sure what happened there. I don't even know if the interview went through. But we're back previewing McCaskey. They went into a bit of an upheaval to start the year, whereas like 4 days before heat acclimatization practice started, their coach left for a college job. But they still were.
What a crazy time to leave.
Yeah, it's brutal. It was brutal, especially for a team that's still searching for, an identity. They were just struggling. They hadn't won many games in a while. But they got that first win of the season against Reading, and not looking too bad overall. And they lost to York William Penn, but then they responded and they really hammered Lebanon 60-6. They put up 60 points against Lebanon, who is really struggling this year.
Yeah, I in looking around some of the other LL stuff, I saw, we mentioned before the show, Columbia is playing Northern Lebanon this week coming up, and Northern Lebanon beat Lebanon earlier in the year, but has had kind of struggled since that. Lebanon is really struggling. They are not on our schedule this year.
No, they are not.
But yeah, like for McCaskey, man, losing your coach literally days before the season, that's so tough.
Really tough. That one's tough to swallow, tough to understand. So they were, 1-0, 2-1, but now they've lost 3 straight games. They lost at Elizabethtown 39-15. They lost against Conestoga Valley 35-7. That was the mandated crossover game. And then last week, to open up Section 1 play, McCaskey lost at Hempfield 41-10. to 6, and all they get to do now is come to West Lawn and play the Bulldogs at Gursky this Friday at 7 o'clock. What to expect from McCaskey? Well, the incredible athletes. They have a bunch of them again, and if they get the ball in space, they're gonna make you. They're gonna make you pay. Their scoring play last week, I think, was an 83-yard. I'm not sure if it was a pass or a run, but it was 83 yards for a touchdown, and that was by Shamir Covington, their running back, and he is a good one. He is someone that the Bulldogs are gonna have to key on. He is good. So hopefully Wilson's defensive line can hold him in the backfield and not let him get on the edge or into space, because Shamir Covington is a very good football player, and he can go the distance on any play. But it's good for McCaskey. They snapped that 26-game losing streak. They felt like they were moving in the right direction, and I think they're right. They already had won 2 games this year. I don't know if they'll have the opportunity to win too many more the rest of the year in Section 1.
They had like a couple years in a row where they hadn't won a game.
Right, and they won 2 already.
Right. So I'm not, easy for me to say, but they hopefully they're building in the right direction. I know I don't remember exactly, but do they have an interim coach right now?
Yeah, they do. I'm trying to remember what his name is.
Hopefully there's some stability there with the coaching program,
Ben Thompson.
Yeah,
he was one of Sam London's assistants, so he's the one that's taken over. I
wish them lots of luck, just not as much this week.
Just not Friday. No. So Ben Thompson is the one. Sam London tendered his resignation on August 4th. Ben Thompson eventually was named the interim leader, and already led them to 2 victories this year. I just think they're going to be probably hard to come by in the Section 1 race, going Hempfield, at Wilson, Penn Manor, Manheim Township, and finishing with Cedar Crest. On paper, I would think that their best opportunity may be that season finale at Cedar Crest, because the other teams in front of them, including Wilson this week, are just more talented. So, but you don't want to overlook anyone, because with their ability to score quickly, you don't want to get into a barn burner with them.
Well, I know this happens. It happens. I don't want to say regularly, but man, we talk about those trips to McCaskey. There's always something. Like, we don't always get off to a fast start, and handle our business right away. And, not just last year. Last year, everything was weird, especially the McCaskey trip. But
yeah, that was weird.
It's just every time there, it's always just an interesting trip. So I know we're home, so there's that. Hopefully we can get off to a fast start like we did this week. Got off to a fast start. We're able to kind of build some of those successes. We talked over and over again about how we've had some times where, the negatives have kind of stacked up. Well, maybe we can get some of those positives to stack up here, starting from last week to this week, and keep things rolling. That would be huge.
Yeah, for certain. Fast start, swarming defense, a methodical offense, putting points on the board, staying healthy, and hopefully getting some backups and JV guys time at the end, and just continue that win streak. Get number 2 on the board.
And we talk about it, and that was one of the things that was one of just the many things that was so tough about last year, was in the reduction of games and all kinds of things going on. You lost some of those opportunities to get some of those guys that extra experience. We talk about some of these guys, some of the guys see the field earlier in their high school career. Some of the guys don't see a lot of time till their senior year. But when you get the chance, like in that Penn Manor game, when those guys get extra reps in the Penn Manor game, and guys got extra reps in the MLK game. And that can be valuable, because you can start to see things from guys. You can start to, just see them in situations that you can't, as much as you want to, you can't simulate on the practice field all the time. So every one of those reps is helpful. So, I don't know. It's a dangerous spot to be in, like, predicting that. But you hope the team can go out and handle their business and get off to a good start again on Friday night.
Yep, and get the win and get to above 500. Continue the journey for another section championship and work towards improving the power ratings for hopefully a chance to play in the second season this year. And that's they put up themselves in position after the victory against Penn Manor Friday, and they got to do the same now this Friday against McCaskey. I had hoped to have a nice, cool little reveal for something special taking place for the team on Friday, but that has not happened yet. The thing that is happening is happening. It's just the way that we wanted to promote it and unveil it has not yet happened. So stay tuned to the Wilson Football social accounts. Make sure you like and follow and subscribe to us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, Twitch, all those places where you can get this show and everything that we cover for the Wilson football team. Because hopefully this week we'll have this nice little unveiling of just like a fun little thing that Wilson gets to participate in this year. And it's happening this Friday night for the game against McCaskey at Gursky. I think that pretty much covers it. Sorry that the interviews may have not worked for everyone watching live. I will see what I can do about splicing it into the audio feed. No promises, but hopefully that will work out. And I think that's pretty much it on my end, Justin. Do you have any final thoughts on Penn Manor or McCaskey?
No, just, it's we're at a good spot. It's homecoming this week. So, it would be great for them to be able to, like we said, just kind of build off the success. So, I don't know. I'm optimistic. I know we talked about this on last week's show. Like, man, I'm telling you, I think we got a glimpse of it this past week, but through the trials of that first, 5 weeks of the season, man, there's an incredible opportunity for this Wilson team to write a really cool story about the season if they can continue to build successes as we go through the season. And, I just think back to some of those years we talk about, like, oh man, this was, a crazy rough start, or this didn't happen the way we wanted to, or whatever. But, some of those teams get it together, and the opportunity is there for this team. They just have to take it 1 week at a time, do their job like they did on Friday night against Penn Manor, come out with the same intensity. I saw some of the guys mentioned about the intensity in practice again. Hopefully they keep that up. They keep that accountability, all that stuff, moving in the right direction, and let's build on that success.
Yes, absolutely. Couldn't have said it better myself. That's everything that Wilson should be doing and hope to be doing, and Justin said it perfectly, so I'm not going to add anything to it. Exactly what we said last week, and what we're going to continue to say here week in, week out. So we're about at our hour mark, so we're going to wrap it up here. Again, we'll be back in 1 week's time to recap the game against McCaskey and preview the game at Cedar Crest. Thanks again to our sponsors, May's Sandwich Shop, MikeDragosports.com, CNS Supply Company, Andy Herr and Marty Palm, and our 3 anonymous donors. Appreciate their support as always. So thanks for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching and subscribing. We'll be back again in 1 week's time. But until then, remember, go Bulldogs.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode of the Bulldog Hour. Want more Wilson football? Follow the show on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to the podcast on iTunes and SoundCloud, or visit www.bulldoghour.com. The Bulldog Hour is a featured program on jmnjrradio.com.